I would like to talk a little bit about how you check for accessibility standards, because Preethi, you work on the member side, and then Brittany works on design systems and making sure that everything is across the board consistent, as well as internal tools. I would like to learn about how you two work together and design for accessibility.
Sure. Yeah, Brittany, you want to kick us off, or should I? Go ahead.
Go ahead and start, Preethi.
Cool. In terms of design and development, there are really like three stages, right? There is the design, there is the engineering, there's the QA, and each one of these kind of has their set of accessibility requirements and best practices. So for design, it might be something as simple as making sure that the colors you're using are accessible across the board. So that's one. Another is, in terms of engineering, could be making sure that your products can be read via a screen reader. So those are two things that we focus on. We also work with external partners to make sure that we're consistently focusing on accessibility. I'm going to pass this off to Brittany, and then maybe I'll come back with an example.
So on our internal tool side for providers and admins, we focus a lot on like designing for not only like accessibility and inclusivity, but for safety as well. So making sure that we kind of double dip, if you will, on like making sure that things are really clear and not only using one signifier or indication that calling attention to information that may be really pertinent. So an example of that would be using not only an icon for something, but also, or not only color, but also using standard language and making sure that things stand out appropriately. And then for our internal side too, just thinking a lot about not just designing for people with disabilities and impairments, but everyone. So it could be the environment in which a provider is working. So their computer and screen size, and also motion and how much things may move. And so we really try and look at things across the board, and anytime that we are solving a problem, making sure that it's solved the same way each time and trying to be consistent in that.
Yeah. And as Brittany like really eloquently put it, like whether or not something is an accessible color is like the very, very tip of the iceberg. And so like when we're thinking about accessibility, we're also thinking about achieving health equity, and that includes all people. So one example of this is when you're a patient at One Medical. I was recently researching on remote visits with a patient who is deaf. So we hopped on our video chat as part of this research session, and we had a translator with us who could translate during the research study. And one interesting thing is, as a member of One Medical myself, if something comes up, I kind of take it for granted that I could cancel my One Medical appointment. It's no big deal. But for this patient, it was actually a source of anxiety because they have to plan out their whole month, because they would feel really bad if they had to cancel that appointment, because they had also accounted for the translator's travel time to their appointment. So this patient told me that having remote visits as an option at all made them feel better about their timeline and schedule, because they didn't have to think about the translator's travel time. So something as simple as that we might take for granted at times, but makes a difference in this person getting healthcare.
We like to be very careful about the language that we use and being sensitive to all types of people. And one example is when we talk about something called carcinoma, like remembering like what is the late term, or what is a way in which people will understand us the most. And like carcinoma is actually cancer. And, trying to keep things simple, but not to dumb it down, but also like consider like how can we not be intimidating in healthcare, because healthcare can be very intense and like most things might not make sense for most people. We also do a lot of usability studies where we test out words, like on our proactive care team, where we have like tasks for people to complete. We have a term for like when after someone visits their doctor, what do we call it? And originally we tested out a few iterations, like the word after visit review, things like that. But what we came to learn is that there's folks who are from, where English is not the first language, and review can mean so many things. Like 5-star reviews, am I supposed to give a 5-star review? But it's actually just like, what happened during your appointment? Here's what you need to remember so that you don't have to worry about remembering it later.
Growth doesn't have to be something just growing your business. It could also relate to like testing out and experimenting and finding ways to communicate with people in a more gentle, accessible way, which I think is wonderful. So it's like, and also doing that partnered with research could be really good. As you're booking and you're scheduling, is that all accessible, Preethi?
Yes, the booking flow is accessible, yeah. And as I mentioned before, we work with partners to make sure that the changes that we do implement are as well. So it's not just a one and done thing.
Yeah, and also using screen readers. I'm like testing on different types of devices to make sure that everybody gets the same message equally and they all have the same amount of access. I love it.